Hello, everyone, and welcome to Quantum Universum. The White Brotherhood, rooted in esoteric and spiritual traditions, introduces profound concepts such as the 7 rays and the 5 hidden rays, offering guidance for spiritual development and awareness. These concepts, rich in symbolic meaning, are an integral part of alternative spiritual teachings. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel and enable notifications to not miss upcoming videos on personal growth and spiritual well-being. Before delving into the rays, let's try to understand together what the White Brotherhood is. The history of the White Brotherhood is shrouded in mystery and esoteric traditions. It is a concept rooted in ancient spiritual and philosophical traditions, but the term has become more widely known through modern spiritual teachings and movements. The White Brotherhood is often associated with a group of spiritual masters or enlightened beings working in the shadows to guide humanity towards higher awareness and spiritual transformation. These masters are considered custodians of ancient wisdom and spiritual teachings, operating from a subtle plane to positively influence individuals and collective evolution. The concept has roots in various traditions, including Western esotericism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and other spiritual philosophies. The term White Brotherhood suggests a unified group of enlightened beings, often described as advanced spiritual masters who have attained a high state of awareness and spiritual understanding. Information about the White Brotherhood is often transmitted through secret teachings, mystical texts, and oral traditions. Some modern spiritual movements and esoteric organizations refer to the White Brotherhood in their teachings, seeking to connect with this source of wisdom and spiritual guidance. It's important to note that the perception and interpretation of the White Brotherhood vary among different spiritual currents, with some seeing this concept as a symbolic representation of inner enlightenment rather than a physical group of individuals. Let's delve even further into the details. The term White Brotherhood appears in the theosophical writings of Madame Blavatsky and especially Alice Bailey to refer to a fraternity of spiritual beings that has, since ancient times, taken on the task of guiding the evolution of humanity as a whole, leading it towards its ultimate and inevitable destiny, the attainment of perfection and full awareness to voluntarily ascend to higher ranks of the hierarchy of being. Also known as the Great Universal White Brotherhood, Council of Light, Great White Lodge, Order of Melchizedek, and other names, it is called white to contrast it with the Dark Brotherhood, which represents its negative counterpart, as white is also the synthesis of every other color. The term was also used by Omram Mikhail Ivanhoff to indicate a spiritualist movement of people motivated by ideals of fraternity, aimed at fostering the moral and cultural growth of humanity. It originated as an offshoot of a homonymous association founded on April 6, 1900 in Varna, Bulgaria, by the philosopher Peter Dunov, whose representatives would reflect the invisible higher brotherhood in any case. One of the fundamental esoteric principles disseminated by the Theosophical Society, founded in the second half of the 19th century, concerns the occult background of humanity's complex evolution, which occurs on a cosmic scale and is linked to both the physical and spiritual aspects of the universe. The history of human development on Earth was originally presented in The Secret Doctrine, the magnum opus of Helena Blavatsky from 1888, according to which terrestrial evolution is part of the overall evolution of the cosmos, supervised by a spiritual hierarchy of personalities residing in secret locations, the so-called Masters of Ancient Wisdom, whose higher grades are constituted by even more advanced spiritual beings. Blavatsky referred to some earlier conceptions where a community of mystical beings, composed of both the living and the deceased, was called the Council of Light. This concept drew partly from Christian doctrines like the communion of saints and, in other aspects, from ideas circulating in Rosicrucian and Illuminati circles regarding secret societies formed by occult adepts devoted to beneficial magic purposes. In any case, it is the founders of the Theosophical movement, including Colonel Henry Steele Olcott and writer William Judge, who explicitly mention some adepts of the Brotherhood called Mahatmas, with whom Blavatsky claimed to be in telepathic contact, receiving instructions to establish the society to disseminate again in the world the occult wisdom of ancient mysteries. These forms of communication, initiated in 1875, would involve journalist Alfred Percy Sinnett from 1881 onwards, who began a prolific correspondence with the Mahatmas, whose response letters often arrived in the same sealed envelope used to contain the question. This collection of responses and teachings from these adepts, residing secretly in Tibet, some of the most well-known of whom were called Moya and Kut Humi, formed the basis of the Theosophical doctrine. Both claim to be ascended masters of earthly origin who, despite having transcended human conditions, continue to regularly incarnate to assist humanity's evolution on Earth, playing the role of illuminated ones whose main goal is to alleviate the suffering of sentient beings and guide them towards enlightenment. Such masters include famous historical figures like Buddha, Confucius, Kuan Yin, Zarathustra, John the Baptist, Jesus, Mary of Nazareth, Pharaoh Thutmose III, Pythagoras, the Count of Saint-Germain, many of whom are believed to still be present with a physical body on Earth, continuing their mission from various locations such as Luxor, Yucatan, the Hungarian Carpathians, and Tibet. Some of them inspired other members of the Theosophical Society, while the Master Jwal Kul would later psychically dictate the writings of Alice Bailey under the designation the Tibetan. Unlike the inspiring Mahatmas of Blavatsky and Bailey, who would still be normal humans, the higher members of the White Brotherhood would come from other cosmic locations such as Sirius, the Pleiades, and the planet Venus. From the latter, in particular, by the will of Supreme Stellar Directors, a mission of Venusian spirits led by Sanat Kumara, called the Ancient of Days, arrived on Earth in a remote time, about 18 million years ago during the Lemurian era, corresponding to the third earthly era according to the Theosophical chronology, in which the ancestors of humans lived in a period of turbulence and terror. They settled in Shambhala in the Gobi Desert, formerly called the White Island, which became their first headquarters from which they sought to reverse the fate of humanity, imparting a strong acceleration to its evolutionary process, continuing to oversee it to this day. Shambhala is a dwelling place only locatable on an etheric plane, different from the physical one, mentioned alongside others like the mythical Agartha. The new Lord of the World, Sanat Kumara, has been assisted since then by 3 other Kumaras externally, plus 3 more operating incognito. Among their tasks is monitoring alien entities incarnated on Earth, including creatures known in ufological literature as greys, reptilians, vampires, etc. Initially, the Kumaras would have sought to resort to genetic crossings to select the best individuals to refine the human race, making it capable of hosting self-awareness. Later, they infused a purely initiatory spiritual contribution. Each of the 7 Kumaras would also be a vehicle for one of the so-called 7 rays, the 7 divine emanations through which the Absolute expresses itself on Earth. They are, according to the colors of the iris, Ray 1 blue, the ray of will and power, blue. Ray 2 golden, the ray of love, wisdom and illumination. Ray 3 pink, the ray of divine love and adoration. Ray 4 white, the ray of purity and ascension. Ray 5 green, the ray of truth and healing. Ray 6 golden ruby, the ray of peace, grace and providence. Ray 7 purple, the ray of transmutation, liberation, and mercy. Also in Theosophy, the term Ascended Master refers to particularly enlightened beings who have evolved from previous incarnations where they were ordinary human beings. After undergoing a spiritual transformation called initiation, they would have acquired a higher rank, ascending one or more degrees in the hierarchy of the universal reality. In this hierarchy, the difference between an ascended master and a human being is the same as that between a human being and an animal or even a plant. In their new condition, they have transcended the physicality of the terrestrial sublunary world, ascending to higher etheric, astral, or spiritual dimensions. However, for the sake of humanity, they have decided to take responsibility for directing, protecting, and helping to spread the light on planet Earth, continuing to regularly incarnate in human bodies, even though they no longer need them for their specific evolution. Unlike the higher members of the so-called White Brotherhood, coming from other cosmic places like Sirius, the Pleiades, or the planet Venus, the ascended masters known to Theosophy would have an earthly origin, having been ordinary men. They continue to be so while having already acquired a body of light. These are usually known as saints, Mahatmas, and Bodhisattvas in various religious traditions. Some of them still reside in Shambhala in invisible forms, guided by the Lord of the World, Sanat Kumara. There would be different types of masters depending on the number of spiritual realms they have managed to access by overcoming their respective initiations. Beyond the fourth level, even for current mortals, there would be the possibility, through appropriate discipline, allowing them to free themselves from their karma to join the ranks of these ascended masters. Blavatsky claimed to know 7 of them, while Alice Bailey argued there were about 60. In addition to the hierarchical difference, each master, according to the theosophical jargon, would also be a bearer of a specific ray, one of the 7 divine emanations through which the Absolute expresses itself on Earth. Some of the main ascended masters known to Theosophy are Maurya, who in ancient times would have been the prophet Moses and later the Indian Emperor Akbar the Great. Kuthumi, who lived in ancient times as the pharaoh Akhenaten, later as the philosopher Pythagoras, and then the Buddhist monk Nagarjuna. Jwal-Khul, also known as the Tibetan, who would have been the telepathic inspirer of Alice Bailey and recently ascended to the level of master. In previous lives, he was the Pythagorean Clinias of Taranto and the Buddhist monk Asanga, Master Venetian, who would have been the philosopher Plotinus and later the painter Paolo Veronese, Hilarion, who would have been the apostle Paul of Tarsus and later the philosopher Iamblichus, Master Jesus, who was the personality in Palestine that hosted the Supreme Being of Christ from the baptism in the Jordan, but according to Theosophy, should not be confused with Christ. Christ would have withdrawn from him at the agony in the Garden of Gethsemane. He is also recognized as a master in anthroposophy. Rakotsi, also recognized in anthroposophy, would have been the philosopher Proclus, then the alchemist Roger. Bacon, the esotericist Christian Rosenkreutz, who inspired the Rosicrucian movement, and then the Count of Saint-Germain. In the upcoming videos, we will cover each ray with their details and also explore how to work with them and the methods of activating the rays. As always, thank you for being with me on this journey. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to let me know by liking and leaving a comment. See you soon in the next video.